Victoria Winters has returned from a strange, frightening journey into the past. One by one, she has begun to remember the terrible events she witnessed in the year 1795. There is another in the Collins family who knows those events only too well, for he too lived through them. Now he fears that Victoria Winters may have learned his awful secret. While this night is still young, Barnabas Collins will learn that no part of the past can ever die. Indeed, his own past may soon begin to catch up with him.
I have lived this curse for almost 200 years. Is that not time enough? Now that you have found me again, must everyone around me die as they did before? No. I will not let you do it. I will not let you. Burn. Burn. That is the only way you will die. That is the only way this curse will end. Burn. Burn. No! Where are you? Where?
And love, let us be true to one another. For the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. And we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarums of struggle and fight, where ignorant armies clash by night.
Roger, what are you doing? Roger? Roger, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you, Vicky. I must congratulate you on your taste. You know, that's an exquisite portrait.
Well, thank you, but you've already congratulated me 3 times.
Every time I look at it, it's like seeing it for the first time. You know, at my age, the thrill of discovery is one of life's rare treasures.
When I left you an hour ago, you were staring at it. You don't mean to tell me you've been standing here all this time?
Well, I believe I have.
Why?
Well, now, you look at that face and tell me why not.
You really like it, don't you?
I adore it. I've never seen a face as spellbinding as that. Well, you must share my enthusiasm. I mean, after all, you found the painting and bought it.
Yes, and I'm still not sure why.
Well, don't bother about reasons. That face alone justifies the purchase.
Perhaps she's someone I met during...
Oh, during your sojourn into the 18th century. I was about to ask you how you were feeling today, but I see you haven't quite recovered from the effects of the seance.
You really are the eternal skeptic, aren't you?
You're confusing skepticism with old-fashioned common sense. Now, your account of visiting the past is very charming.
I can assure you there was nothing very charming about it.
And I have no doubt that you sincerely believe that it actually happened. But, my dear Vicky, it did not happen. I mean, the very idea of people cavorting in and out in time periods would be amusing if it weren't so preposterous.
Well, in that case, how do you account for that strange young woman who took my place while I was gone?
Well, I've attributed all that to mass hallucination.
You still believe that?
My dear Vicky, if I didn't believe that, I would have to accept the possibility that we're all quite mad.
Well, I can assure you that we're not quite mad. And even if it is hard for you to accept, it did happen. So I shall just have to prove it to you.
Well, I'll have to take more convincing than most people.
Well, then I shall try very hard to convince you. And after that, all the other skeptics will be quite easy to convince.
Good morning.
Oh, Julia. Julia, I want you to look at this portrait. What do you think of it?
It's very good. When did you buy it?
Oh, I didn't. Vicky found it at an antique shop yesterday.
Oh?
Have you ever seen a more beautiful face?
She is very pretty.
Oh, pretty. Too many women are described as being pretty. The beauty of that face is unique. I should think that you, being French, would be only too glad to acknowledge such beauty, Countess Dupre.
Countess? What are you saying?
I beg your pardon?
You called me Countess Dupre?
Did I? How very curious.
Yes. Very curious indeed.
Good evening. Miss Winters, I presume?
Yes, and you must be Professor Stokes.
Am I quite different to what you expected?
Oh, no. Forgive me. You look rather like someone I once knew. Please come in.
The gentleman at the antique store told me you were quite lovely. Permit me to say that was a severe understatement.
Thank you. Let's go into the drawing room. We can talk in there. Barnabas, this is the gentleman I was telling you about, Professor Timothy Stokes, Mr. Barnabas Collins.
How do you do, sir?
How do you do?
Is something wrong with you?
No, nothing at all. Miss Winters tells me that you called her about the portrait she bought yesterday.
Yes, I was quite disappointed when I returned to the antique store yesterday and discovered it was gone.
Were you?
You see, it was promised to me.
Oh, but the man never said anything about that.
Oh, it's quite all right. It was up to me to exercise my claim on the painting by last weekend. Sorry to say, I failed to do so.
I hope you haven't come here to try and buy the painting from me.
You're not willing to sell it.
No.
I'll give you $200 for it.
May I ask why you want to spend so much?
I've spent a good many years studying the early history of my family. In fact, I'm trying to reconstruct the lives of certain ancestors who lived in Collinsport during the late 18th century.
That sounds fascinating.
Yes, it does. How have you gone about this reconstruction process?
I've collected diaries, letters, articles of clothing, and other authentic possessions. Of course, it isn't easy to piece things together, but I've made considerable progress over the years. One of my ancestors was a man who worked here at Collingwood.
Ben Stokes.
You know about Ben Stokes?
Yes, from what I've read in the Collins family history.
I've read the official history of the Collins family. I don't recall any mention of Ben Stokes.
Well, he is there. He's not mentioned very prominently, but he is there.
Where did you learn about Ben Stokes, Professor?
It seems he wrote an unpublished book of memoirs.
A book of memoirs. How unusual.
Now, what's so unusual about it?
Well, wasn't it rather rare for a servant in those days to even read and write?
Yes, Ben was no exception. He was an illiterate until he was over 40. That was around 1795. Then there was an abrupt change in Ben Stokes's life.
What kind of change?
He'd been an indentured servant and was obliged to serve out his time with the Collins family until the year 1805. But in 1795, Mr. Joshua Collins suddenly gave Ben his freedom, a sum of money, and full title to a piece of land north of the village. Ben educated himself and worked his land until he died in his 75th year.
Well, do you know why Joshua Collins did these things for Ben?
No, that's a mystery I'm still trying to solve.
Well, did Ben Stokes say anything about it in his memoirs?
He probably did, but the book was in a fire a few years ago. The greater part of it is illegible.
How unfortunate. Well, Vicky, it seems to me that the professor has made a most generous offer. Perhaps you shouldn't be so hasty.
Have you had an offer to sell, Vicky?
Oh, Roger, this is Professor Timothy Stokes, Mr. Collins.
How do you do?
How do you do, Mr. Collins?
I trust Miss Winters has told you that the painting is not for sale.
I'm trying to persuade her to reconsider my offer.
May I ask, what is your offer?
I'm prepared to give $200 for the painting.
I'll give you 500, Vicky.
500.
Can you top that offer, Professor?
I'm afraid I can't. You must be very enamored of the painting, Mr. Collins.
Oh, my interest is purely aesthetic. Why are you interested in it?
I have reason to believe that the woman in the picture was somehow related to Ben Stokes.
No, that's impossible.
I beg your pardon.
I remember now. I know who that woman is. And Ben Stokes hated her for what she was and for what she was trying to do.
Vicky, what are you talking about?
That woman, she's Angelique Collins.
Why, that's absurd. Nobody in the Collins family ever had a name like Angelique.
Oh, yes. The first Barnabas Collins married her. And it was she who practiced witchcraft at Collinwood. And almost succeeded in destroying the entire Collins family.
How long has Miss Winters been here at Collinwood?
Almost 2 years.
She's a most fascinating girl.
How do you mean?
I'm wondering how she knew the portrait was of Angelique Collins.
Well, you heard what Roger said. There was never anyone by the name of Angelique in our family.
Mr. Collins, there is the official history of the Collins family, which is what Roger Collins knows well. And there is the true history. Those events which have somehow been omitted from the written accounts.
Which is what you know so well.
Precisely. I knew of Angelique's existence before I came here tonight. What I did not know was that she might have been a witch. That information may help me to some of the answers I've been looking for.
Answers to what?
Certain events of the past. For example, in the year 1795, the village of Collinsport was the scene of at least a dozen mysterious and violent deaths. They all occurred within the space of a few months, and none of them was ever solved.
And I suppose you're hoping to solve them.
Yes.
Well, isn't it a bit late for justice to be done?
It is never too late to do justice to history.
Well, I know very little about it, of course, but I would guess that what you are trying to do is almost impossible.
Believe it or not, I think tonight has made it easier for me.
What do you mean?
I'm convinced that Miss Winters can help me.
Well, merely because she seems to know so very little about the past.
Mr. Collins, I am also a devoted student of the occult. I am able to detect the presence of certain extrasensory powers in other people. Miss Winters has more than just an affinity for the past. She seems to know it as if she had lived through it. Good night to you, sir.
There's no longer a choice for me, Vicky. If you stay as you are, you represent too great a danger to me. You must come tonight. When you hear the music, you will rise and leave Collinwood and come to me. Do not be afraid, Vicky. Let the music guide you into a new life, a life you never dreamed was possible. Come to me, Vicky. Come to me. When I send for you again, you will be prepared for me. And we will go away together for the rest of time.
Who is it?
It's me, it's Julia. I just wanted to be sure you were all right.
Oh, I'm glad you came in. I had a bad dream.
Oh, tell me about it.
Strange. I can't remember it.
Well, don't think about it now. Try to go back to sleep. I'll see you tomorrow.
Good night.
Good evening, Doctor. Isn't it a little late for you to be out?
Barnabas, you were in Vicky's room.
I never went near her room. I brought her here.
Why did you do it?
You know perfectly well why. Somehow she did see into the past. She knows what I am. I can't allow her to tell anyone else.
She does not know.
Doctor, she doesn't remember everything, but she knows. Little by little, her memory is coming back. Tonight, she recognized the woman in that portrait that she bought yesterday. She knew it was Angelique.
Who is Angelique?
Never mind. The point is that if she knows what Angelique is, she knows what I am.
Barnabas, I know what you are. And I will let everyone else know unless you do as I tell you.
Doctor, I've already told you that before the authorities get hold of me, I will get you.
I will take my chances. But think it over, Barnabas. Either you let Vicky alone, or you run the risk of being exposed to the world. You have until tomorrow night.